Ability is an important factor that brings strength and speciality, superiority to Pokémons of the same type, even among Pokémons of the same species. The number of ability now runs into the hundreds and continues to grow after each generation. Among them are extremely useful properties that help Pokémon reach a new level of power, and there are also some very trivial properties, even reducing the power of their owner. However, there are some that have great potential, but only exist in fairly mediocre Pokémons and fail to reach their full potential. And in this video we will take a look at some of the abilities that strong Pokémon would love to have. I'll start the list with a very familiar and basic ability, even released very early in the 3rd generation, right from the time the ability features were introduced into the game. It's the Compound Eye, a natural feature in real life that belongs to insects. In the game, this ability will increase the accuracy of attacks by 30%. For example, from 50 will increase to 65, from 70 will increase to 91, and from 77 and above will become 100%. Compound Eye will immediately remind people of Pokémon Butterfree, allowing it to drop sleeping powder with 97.5% accuracy. It is also the first Pokémon to possess this feature, and seems to be the only one that seems to be useful. Because other Pokémons that have Compound Eye are Venonat and Nincada, first stage evolution Pokémon that no one uses in battle. Up to the 8th generation, the Pokémon possessing this feature did not look as useful as Dustox, Pavilion, and the most powerful looking was probably Garvantula. This is the only Pokémon in this video that has a decent stats, and it can utilize Compound Eyes to make sure important moves like Thunder Wave and Electro Web never miss. Thunder has 91% accuracy. In my personal opinion, Compound Eye will be extremely useful on a Rock-type Pokémon, when the moves of this type are mostly very easy to miss. The strength of a duo type will be judged by how many type it can counter and resist as many types as possible. With the Tinted Lens feature, Pokémon can almost ignore the first condition, when resistance moves will be double damage, and rare moves that are resistant by 4 times will only be resistant to 2 times instead. In general, the moves of Pokémon possessing this feature will be almost impossible to resist, making it almost useless for the opponent to change Pokémon to counter them. For example, a Pokémon with less effective attack types such as Grass, Bug or Steel can optimize its stab attacks, like a mini version of adaptability. Also combines very well with equipment like Choice Specs or Choice Bands, when switching move is almost unnecessary. And like a curse, almost all insects have this ability. We meet again Butterfree and Venonat, along with its evolution Venomoth. Add in Morteem, Illumise and Yanmega. Besides, there are 2 non-bug Pokémons, Noctowl and Scovillain. Of these, perhaps Scovillain is the most perfect use of this feature because the Psychic, Flying type is not resistant 4 times by any Pokémon. And Yanmega has the best set of stats. However, both of these Pokémon have a better ability than Tinted Lens, Speed Boost and Magic Guard. And honestly, they're not very strong Pokémon either. Let's try to let Kartana possess this ability, we will have an outstanding Pokémon. Furcoat Ice Scales are kind of like a free defensive wall for Pokémon, like Passive Reflect and Light Screen. Furcoat will have physical damage taken, and Ice Scales will do the same but in the special damage. These 2 abilities have the potential to turn Pokémon into an extremely strong tanker, combined with Rocky Helmet to create an extremely annoying Pokémon. And it also allows Pokémon to safely execute some setup moves. But let's go to Pokémon that possess these 2 abilities. Furcoat is only available in 2 Pokémons, Furfrou and alolan Persian. If all IVs are invested in the defense power, these 2 Pokémons can withstand 2 Precipice Blade moves from Primal Groudon and still not be defeated. However, Furfrou has a set of stats that don't have any attack potential, so it's nothing more than a dummy. And alolan Persian can be better when playing the tanky support role with quite a good speed stat when owning Furcoat. However, we cannot consider this as a strong Pokémon. And Ice Scales is an exclusive ability of Frosmoth, combined with a special defense stat that is quite good, which can create an opportunity for it to perform Quiver Dance if it encounters Pokémon that do not possess Fire and Rock-type moves, because these are its 2 critical weaknesses because it has an extremely jagged Bug, Ice-type. Just switching to the field with Stealth Rock will knock it off by half of its health, and while Incineroar and Tyranitar are still used, there's no room for this moth. Water Bubble, an araquanid exclusive ability, grants them double the Water-type moves damage and halves the Fire-type damage they take, while also being immune to burn effects. Any Water-type Pokémon, as long as it has mid-range attack stats, will become extremely powerful when possessing Water Bubble. Araquanid is also a Water-type Pokémon. More detailed, it is Duo Bug, Water types, with a below-average set of attack stats. But you should remember that Azumarill also only has a basic attack of 50, after investing all IVs in the attack potential. Araquanid also has a very high attack index in ideal conditions. However, Azumarill has the Aqua Jet move to get priority attack, while Araquanid does not and its base speed is only 42. And there is a small trick of this spider is to use the entrainment move to bring this ability throws to Kyogre for example. But again its speed weakness makes it impossible to do this trick well when it is even slower than Kyogre. It seems that bug-type Pokemon are quite favored when have some pretty cool abilities. And we come to another ability on this list that is Shield Dust, which makes the owned Pokemon unaffected by the side effects belong to the opponent's attack. For example, when a Pokemon with Shield Dust is hit by Nuzzle, it will not be paralyzed by the effect of that move. But with moves like Thunder Wave, it is still paralyzed as usual. Some of the attacks have annoying effects, like not getting burned from Scald, not being flinched by Fake Out or being slowed down by Ice Wind or Electro Web, or some random freezing that make you from winning to losing. But Pokemon possessing this feature are also quite familiar from the beginning of the video, which are Venomoth, Dustox, Pavilion and Frosmoth. The only new face here is Ribombee, with its extremely high speed, also the most useful Pokemon. It can drop Sticky Web onto your opponent team's field, drop Paralyzing Stun Spore or use Quiver Dance without worrying about being hindered. And the 9th generation also brings a new item with the same effect as this ability, Covert Cloak, allowing Pokemon to dance freely without worrying about extremely annoying effects. Which Pokemon do you think can use this equipment most effectively? Please leave a comment below. In Pokemon battle, especially in singles battle, switching Pokemon is quite common, and the Stakeout ability will deal double damage to the opponent's newly sent out Pokemon. You can think of the scenario of a sweeper possessing this ability. Just one Pokemon being defeated will drag a whole series of disasters behind. Or the opponent must use Protect every time he switch Pokemon. This ability also strongly counters Menchiao or Regielki's U-turn or Volt switch tactics. However, we must think about withstanding the opponent's attack before thinking about defeat them one by one. And both Pokemon with Stakeout can't do this, both Gumshoos and Thievul. Both of the above Pokemon are basic Pokemon at the beginning of the game and have extremely low stats. Gumshoos also has a terrible speed stat that makes it unable to attack before the Pokemon that has just been replaced, and Thievul has a better speed stat but has a dark type. Pretty sure it will die if it hit a bug type U-turn. Try giving this trait to a faster Pokemon like Gengar, it would be a real nightmare. And here is an overpowered ability that should only be owned by weak Pokemon, because if a strong Pokemon owns them, it will break the balance of the game. Moody is an ability that will increase a random stats by 2 levels and decrease the random stats of the Pokemon possessing it by 1 level after each turn, and when the time is enough, the Pokemon possessing this trait will become extremely powerful strong in all things. And back in the day, this ability could also increase the evasion stat, which just needs to be increased by 2 levels one time will become extremely annoying thing in this game. Pokemon that possess this trait are Octillery, Glalie, Smeargle, Scovillain, and the Bibarel family. Like I said, any Pokemon with this ability becomes powerful after spamming Protect, Substitute, using Leftover to heal with a bit of luck. And of course this feature is never given to Pokemon like Toxapex or Blissey. But at least these are strong abilities, unlike this Santa Penguin Pokemon. It has 2 anti-sleep abilities to stay up all night to deliver presents. And here are some examples for this style abilities. If you have any additions, you can leave a comment. Maybe we can gather enough for part 2. Now goodbye everyone, thank you for watching and supporting.